Welcome to Engage with Emily, a LinkedIn Live series where we learn together with industry experts. Today's topic is grace, gratitude, and go-giving. We will dive into some ways to use these three things to be more successful in business. I'm your host, Emily Green, founder and CEO of Emily Green LLC, a consulting firm that focuses on public relations, business development, and public speaking services. Let's stay connected after the show. So please follow me on LinkedIn and check out my website, emily-green.com. Joining me today is Kim Angeli. Hi, Kim.
Hello.
Thanks for being on. So Kim strongly believes that it's not your customer's job to remember you, rather it's your job to be unforgettable. And the principle-based strategies she uses to help her clients become unforgettable both in the minds and hearts of their clients results in a business that is much more personally rewarding and financially profitable. This is like, you're like so perfect for what we're talking about today. Seriously. Kim has been in sales and entrepreneurship for 30 years, and as the creator of the programs Grow with Gratitude and Grumpy to Grateful, oh my gosh, I love that, is passionate about your business being in alignment with gratitude. She began her career with Campbell Soup Sales, Sprint Wireless, and Cisco Systems, where she was a $65 million producer. Oh my goodness. That's a lot of money.
In 2000. Yeah, they were $1 billion. They were
wow.
Yeah. Before you were born.
Immediately after the dot-com bust and just 11 days after 9/11, she began her own insurance agency in a guest room closet. Then, after 15 years of owning, growing, and merging insurance agencies, she sold her practice for a 600% profit and took the leap into inspiring grateful living around the world. When not coaching or consulting with business owners or speaking on the stages of the world, you will find Kim traveling with her husband, daughter, and English labs, Katie and Henry. I feel like you and I were like meant to do this show because we both scaled a business, we both sold our business. My agency I sold last year was called Grace Communications, which is like so in line with a lot of the things we're going to talk about today. But the reason I wanted you on and the reason I wanted to do this topic is I've always been on a mission to prove that you can be a financially successful, profitable business and do amazing good things for the world. They're not exclusive. If anything, I think that you should be doing all those things. So thank you for helping me with that mission today and getting that out to more people. But just thank you so much for joining me today.
I agree with you. I believe it's impact and income. There's no order. Right.
Yeah. Right. You can do both. It doesn't have to be one or the other. But before we jump into kind of the main focuses, because we have a lot of great stuff we're going to talk about today. Why is this topic? Why are these three things so important to you?
Well, the first one, grace, is meeting people where they are. I think sometimes I tell people all the time, I'm like, really your disappointment, you're disappointed in others because you're expecting them out of yourself, out of them. Yeah. And a lot of people's disappointment comes from the expectations of others. Now, that's someone else's quote, and I have no idea whose it was, but I adopted it. And when I started meeting people where they are on their journey and looking at them as maybe as a character in that chapter for me, it's the unattachment that allows me to meet them where they are. Now, I haven't always been that way, because if you'd met me in 1999, maybe before you were born, or maybe you were still.
I was born in 1983. I'm 41.
No, there you go. I was 12. Anyway, if you met me in 1999 with a $65 million quota, I was not meeting you where you were. If you got between me and my quota, you might have become a victim of, get out of my way, I'm hustling through this, my job is on the line. So grace is something I've grown into. And basically gratitude changed my life. I mean, I was told, the epiphany for me was I bought a book in 2001 called The Power of Focus in an airport in March, weeks before I was laid off from Cisco. And that book was written by Jack Canfield, who's my mentor, who's why I'm in this work. And like the rest of us, we buy a book and we put it somewhere. And I might have read it then. I can read a book in a plane ride. But I dusted it off in 2010 when I was having a very horrible year. I lost $100,000 in my agency on March 15th of 2020 in one day. I'm
Wow,
about to
you
go
have that
live
date.
about that.
Yeah, you got that date
I'm
in
about to
brain.
go live about that. I'm going to actually do an entire webinar on that because I
Now,
think people need to know that when you see someone at the pinnacle of maybe what you think of success is you don't know how
yeah,
they got there.
right.
And then, so gratitude is really the foundation of how I transform my life. And then I was called into this work to help others transform their lives with gratitude and shift from grumpy to grateful. And then go giving, I am been blessed enough to partner with Bob Berg, who is the founder of Go Giving, Go Giver, the book with John David Mann. And so now I'm working with him. We do events. I'm helping with him with the Go Giving speaking and program. And the 5 Go Giver laws are so in alignment with gratitude. Adding value, the law of compensation. Money is the echo of value, is what Bob will say, is if we give more than we take in payment, the law of compensation is going to reward us. And I know all the laws work. It's just that we don't get taught the laws in school. I mean, there's no entrepreneurship 101 class, last time I checked, in K through 12 in the public school system, which is an atrocity. But we can be go givers. We can be in gratitude and grace. We don't have to buy into the hustle and the go taking to be profitable.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, we're already kind of jumping in. We're already in, but we're gonna officially jump in now. So let's start with grace. What does grace mean to you? You kind of mentioned that a little bit, but when I say that word, what comes to mind? What does it mean to you?
It's really having people skills, which I think was where we learn empathy and tact, and we have influence, and we're genuine, and we're really putting others first.
Yeah.
Right. When I learned how to take, and if I'd known this in the beginning, boy, whew, I mean, who knows? But I honor my journey today. I don't ever go back and say, oh, I wish I could rewrite that, because it would not put me right here in this moment.
Right.
So I honor every chapter, every journey. Is grace is like, even Bob will say this. You know, people say, oh, well, I'm just gonna tell it like it is, and I'm gonna be blunt. Well, we can meet people where they are and guide them and be their journeyman, you know, without throwing up on them about what they're doing wrong.
Yeah, there's a tactful way of doing
There's
things.
a tactful way. And one of the things we teach in Sales Wise Live is genuine influence, right? People, it's how, if people don't remember, I'll ask you this, Emily.
Okay.
I'll ask you a question. Remember, I want you to go back and remember, if you ever worked for anyone, how did they make you feel? Do you really remember how much you got paid?
It's more about how you feel. I mean, I have some examples where I think if the pay was a huge part of it, but it was mostly it was combined with some other negative feelings for sure.
Right. So people remember how you made them feel.
Yeah.
And nobody's perfect. We all, I mean, I always say, when you know better, do better, right? You know, when I was in college and I was probably centered in myself, I was not the most grateful person. I mean, I was nice, but I wasn't rooted in gratitude the way I am. But now I do better because I know better.
Yeah.
I'm always wanting to be better than I was yesterday. So I think meeting people where they are and showing grace for them where they are in their journey, and not saying, oh, they're not grateful, they don't send thank you notes, or blah, blah. I'm not attached to that.
Yeah.
I'm attached that if they learn it, they do something differently. And if they don't, I'm not attached to it.
I love that. When I started Grace Communications, the reason I picked Grace in the name was I wanted that to be really our vibe, like our whole thing that would set us apart. But also the other kind of meaning to that, to grace, if you look it up, is it's giving credit and honor to something.
Right.
And I loved that because when you're doing marketing or you're doing any service industry, like it should be about your client. And I felt like a lot of agencies I had worked with in corporate, sometimes I felt like they were more about themselves than me. And so I was like, no, 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 that was one of our core values. Like, it's not about us, it's about the client. Make them feel incredibly special by giving them, that attention and helping them get that honor or credit that they deserve. So I always think of it like that. And even though I've sold Grace and I've, started my new journey, I still try to do that with every single interaction as much as possible. I want to give people credit and honor what they have for the
Well,
world.
it's about them. I
It's
mean,
about that.
and unfortunately,
Yeah.
as an entrepreneur, I could probably take the 50 to 60,000, let's just say maybe 100 grand I've spent in 23, 25 years in marketing,
Yeah.
especially digital marketing in the last decade. And I could have gone to Hawaii for a month. Because sometimes marketing agencies, if their mouth
Yeah.
is moving, they're lying and they're not thinking about what you're
Yeah.
trying to achieve. And
Yeah.
so I honor that. I love that you honored your customer and what they were trying to do because that's very unique in that world.
It was just
Very unique.
I drilled that into my team, and I always, like, I tried everything in my being to be that way for my clients because I just felt like it was such an issue that I'd had with past agencies. And you still see it even outside of marketing with other services, and out you're like, it's not good for your sales either. It's not just about being a good person and honoring and all those like great words. It's bad for sales because people want to work with people that make them feel special. They don't want to work with someone that's talking about themselves and about, you know what I mean? Like they just
Right.
don't. So I always try to say that too. I've had, we talked about this before, I think a little, but I've had people be like, what was your secret to scaling? What was this and that? And it's like, well, I gave first a lot of times. I would give to people and then they would want to help me or they would want to work with me. And a lot of people that I've seen they complain or they're, like, I can't get leads, I can't get this or that. And I'm like, what are you doing to give first? Like, you're expecting people to want to come to you, and what are you doing? What are you putting out there to attract that?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, that's like Go givers give first. I mean, I always tell people I'm probably going to do something for you way before. And I
Yeah.
even had a conversation this week. I said, we're offering a mastermind that's exclusive to people who've come through SalesWise Live. And I had a conversation with a client of mine who is going to take in a new role as a CEO. And I said, you're not doing this. And she's like, what? What do you mean? I mean, it wasn't the takeaway. Oh, the takeaway. My husband's like, oh, that conversation, was that the takeaway? I was like, no, that's in her best interest.
Yeah.
She's moving. She's coming to a new area. She's starting as a CEO. She does not have time to mastermind. She can do the next one or the next one. It's in her best interest. I could care less. I want to serve her at my highest self. And when I started doing that in insurance, because insurance people are always throwing up on you about facts and benefits and features
Yeah.
and benefits and price. And my clients didn't worry about price. My parents, my clients knew I cared about them beyond the policy.
Right.
They would say, I know I'm paying more to have a better experience. And we went on a wait list at some point in because we were very nichey we were boutiquey in the end, very
Yep.
nichey. And we went on a wait list and they were like, okay, well, we'll wait. Why? Because they will wait for the best to be served at their highest self.
And like you said, it's the feeling you give them. They want that. They'd rather work with someone that makes them feel that way and wait even to work with
Right.
you.
They'll wait.
Yeah,
Right.
than work with someone else that doesn't make them feel special. And there's that trust too, like you've built. When you make people feel that way, they really trust you. Um, but I feel like there's that huge responsibility too. Once you get that trust and you get that, you also need to make sure you like come through.
Well,
So,
and that's why I teach why we do gratitude points, the whole entire relationship, even beyond the transaction,
yeah,
even beyond when they're paying you, is because gratitude builds trust. And
yeah,
trust I said this in my keynote last Thursday. I said to 200 business owners, entrepreneurs, salespeople, whoever was, trust is everyone's biggest obstacle.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah. That's, oh my gosh.
Trust.
Love that. I
And
want that on my
leads,
shirt.
and
That's
this is something else
perfect.
I said in my keynote, how to be unique in a noisy world.
Yeah.
Leads have no trust. That's
Yeah.
why you feel like you're dragging them over the
Yeah.
threshold. Because I
Yeah.
got a referral from the keynote, and the girl was like, "Oh, I mean, we can't wait to work with you." I was like, "Well, dear Lord, you don't even know how much I cost yet." She's like, "Oh,
Yeah.
we'll figure it out." I'm like, "Oh, I
That's
love."
what you want though. That's
She's
the
like,
goal.
I don't know, but we'll figure it out. Like I've had people
Yeah.
like, but that's what you love is that it's you've aligned with them. They can see that you care about them, and you.
Yeah.
I really, honestly, I celebrate my clients' wins as if they were my own, and I tell people, I'm like, I'm going to come into your business as if I own the place,
Yeah.
because I care about it as much as you do. I care about every dollar you are spending towards
Yeah.
something.
Oh,
But
I love that. Can you think of a specific example of when you or someone you worked with has shown grace and that made just like a huge impact on your relationship?
shown grace to me, or
Or you've shown grace to them, either way.
hmm. Well, let me go to one. Well, I think you can show grace when people mess up,
Yeah.
right?
Agreed.
So, in fact, even in my grumpy to grateful that I teach, I could probably use some wordsmithing in that. The owner, so the owner has to make sure that the employees feel like they're going to give them grace if they come to them with a grumpy client, right? See, the reason why most employers don't hear about bad experiences that maybe have happened in their organization is because the employee feels like they're going to be fired or not given grace for it. What did you do
Right.
wrong?
Right.
And so we have to give people grace because they're human beings.
Yeah.
Nobody's perfect out here. And I think we don't give people enough grace. You think, so you have let's say you had a relationship with a client and you do one thing wrong,
Right.
right? And they're like, "Oh, I'm done with you." Bleh. So 10 years of
Right.
relationship
Oh,
went
yeah.
away for one, and I've seen it happen. I've been the on the recipient of that before, and I'm
Me
like,
too.
wow,
Me too.
wow,
Me too.
wow. I mean, I'm just like,
Yeah.
wow. And sometimes I'm telling you, sometimes the Debbie Downer or the monkey mind will be like, wow, so that whole relationship was built on that one thing, and I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, I guess it was. But so it was all about them though,
Mhm.
right? But
Yeah.
so I'm always saying, we need to show people grace. No one's perfect.
Yeah.
No one, not even myself, even myself. And so that's where I think we need to meet people where we are. We're so disappointed in people because we're expecting ourselves out of them. And your
Yeah.
biggest disappointment is coming from your expectations of others. And
Yeah.
so we just need to come alongside of them in this journey of life. We're just on this short earthly journey for a little while. And really it's we're not showing a lot of grace for just go on Facebook. Girl, there's no grace on Facebook. I mean,
Well, you just called. I love that you said that. Oh, Jesus.
Facebook? Oh yeah, no. Yeah, no. You've never seen my real hair on Facebook. Maybe soon, but you've never seen my real hair on Facebook. But yeah, because
I'm
you're just
gonna
seeing
see
the
it.
highlights. You're just seeing the highlights of people's lives, right? Right. So,
Yeah, I could talk. I could talk for hours about that. Oh, yeah,
yeah, no.
for
I bet.
sure, for sure. Well, you kind of already answered some of my other questions about grace, so I think we can move into gratitude now because we got a lot to talk about with that and the go giving part. When people think of gratitude, many associate that with you. I feel like that's kind of become not kind of, it is. It's a big part of your brand. So, how did this whole gratitude thing first start with you?
Well, I was dusting that book off, The Power of Focus in 2010. No, not only did I lose $100,000 that year, my dad was diagnosed with cirrhosis of the liver about 45 days later. And his cognitive skills at one point, I say it's a funny story now, but at one point I heard him on the phone with a client and I went and just unplugged his phone and it never rang in his office again. So I had to come up with a plan for that. So I created I just started putting one note of gratitude in a box I bought from Big Lots, which I own a product called Grateful Box. I've dissolved the company attached to that, but I still own the product and that. It will rebirth itself eventually in the years in the future. But so just that one note a day, even when I was too tired because I was raising a 7-year-old and my husband worked an hour away, gratitude shifted my entire life when practiced. So gratitude has to be practiced.
Yeah.
It has to be written. We can't just say, "Oh, I'm grateful." No. It has to be. It's gratitude is a practice. It's a skill. Gratitude is a skill. And people say, "Oh, I'll be grateful when I'm happy." No. We're grateful and then happy occurs. This is where people get it in reverse. And so that changed my life. And then I stayed in the insurance agency 5 years later. And I was called into this work. A lot of people say, why would you sell a profitable insurance agency? Well, in the middle of that, I moved to Charlotte, which was the best thing ever happened to me in 2013. A lot of people around me thought we were crazy. But I worked on my business, not in it. I lived here for 3 years and my agency still ran without me because I had a team like no other. They're still there. And I learned that yes, it was profitable. I did not enjoy it anymore. I was burnt out and I got called into this work. And gratitude will stay foundationally at the root of my existence because my purpose and passion given to me from God is inspiring grateful living around the world. So that has never changed. The mechanisms in which I do it have changed, but the purpose and passion I was given in 2015, May of 28th of 2015 that I wrote down is choosing grateful living, gratitude and abundant. They're practicing gratitude. They're moving from grumpy to grateful.
Right.
Will always be my purpose. It will the road will always be pivoting and evolving and all that. But gratitude, my trademark attorney, Jeff Schwartz, love you.
Shout out.
He told me, he's in Charlotte, he's amazing. He told me you can't own the word gratitude. And I was like, watch me. He said, you can't trademark the word grateful. I said, oh, watch me. Whee, there we go. So basically I want people to, when they hear the word grateful, they can learn ways, if they're grumpy, they can shift into a mindset of gratitude. Gratitude is a lifestyle. It is not something we do in the morning. We write down our gratitude and then we go out in traffic and be a jerk. Yeah. Gratitude is a way of living.
Right.
And so it's just teaching people, inspiring people, planting seeds for them to start the process. I'm not attached to how they do it. I'm attached to that they start. And that's really my God-given calling. If it doesn't, and this is how I make decisions, and I teach people this. I've been offered, I added it up the other day so I started this journey of 100% doing grateful living January 1st of 2016. I'm 9 years into it.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
God bless you. God bless you.
Thank you.
I have probably been offered about $4.5 million to go work for other people. And the reason that I don't say yes to those things is if I run it through the filter of inspiring grateful living around the world and shifting the energy of the world from 97% negative thinkers to 96, I say no. Because for me at this point, money is the echo of what I do. Money is the echo of value. And so I don't focus on the money. I focus on how am I inspiring grateful living on a daily basis for other people.
Yep.
And the provision comes. And if I was still in insurance, I would be miserable millionaire. Millionaire, which I coach a lot of those people. They're miserable, they make a lot of money, and they are having no fun. They're not having any fun because money itself is a tool and it won't make you happy.
I I can like everything you said. It's just interesting because I recently, I sold my agency last year, and so it's still kind of fresh. But I had the
Right.
same people are like, "Why would you do that when you were, you guys were scaling, you were growing, you were doing so good." And I loved the agency I built, but I felt another calling to do what I'm doing now. And I think you have to listen to that when you have a strong calling. Like that's whatever you believe in, whatever force you believe in, it's telling you this is what you need to be doing. And I think you can't do everything. People think you can, but you can't. So I totally get that. And I've had the same people like, oh, why would you do that? And it's like, why wouldn't I?
No,
Why
it's
wouldn't I
very
do it?
interesting. I have a lot of people that still, but what happens is if you study energy, like I study, like even last night before my husband got home, I was studying shadow work and energy and
Yeah.
triggers, and like I love all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And if people don't realize that insurance itself, it was great. I honor my journey there. I saved my parents from
Yeah, it's part of
bankruptcy,
it.
but
Mm-hmm.
it was something I still had to give energy to, right?
Yes,
So we have this
yeah.
energy, and I was not going to be able to really step into my greatness
Mm-hmm.
giving that energy. And people are like, oh, because I was like, they don't understand the concept that you were given a calling, and your calling's different from mine. It wasn't a conference call. I love that comment on Facebook is I have a calling and it wasn't a conference call. It was between me and God.
Yeah,
Like so I'm in alignment with that, and I'm not attached to your opinion of what you think about me giving up whatever
yeah,
money
yeah.
that was. So you have a calling, I have a calling. They're not the same. We can't copy people's calling.
No.
It doesn't work, but there are people, oh, I want to be like so and so. And Tony Robbins, who's one of my coaches, I went to his business mastery in 2017. He said, I love people that come up to me and say, I'm going to be you. And he's like, that's awesome because here I am today, and here I'll be here, and you'll be here, and I'll be here. Because we're always evolving our own soul.
Yeah.
And so we have to lean into our own self and what were we really given breath for. And when you figure that out, not a lot of people will, unfortunately. I hope I can help more people figure that out, because life is peaceful and harmony when you are in alignment.
Yes, I could not agree more. I love that. Okay, so recently you had a big announcement.
Oh
You
yeah, yeah.
you launched
So
your
fun.
gratitude journal. And I don't know if people can see it, but I have it right here
Oh, okay,
too.
awesome. Yeah,
Just
it's
wanted
been
to
actually
display it.
amazing. Yes.
So let's talk about how to use gratitude on a daily basis to level up your leadership. So how do you recommend using the gratitude journal? And also like what are some key things you do every day to to put gratitude into your life?
So every day I write gratitude. This book is a culmination of a lot of work with my clients. I've tested this book on them, so it's created to create transformation quickly. It takes 30 to 56 days to actually rewire the brain to seek out what is going well instead of saying what is not going well. I mean, we're actually rewiring the brain. When you write down gratitude, you are shifting everything. It written gratitude is so powerful. And so every morning, and when I wasn't consistent with this in the beginning, because you're just not.
Yeah.
I would go back and I didn't have this journal. I was using a notebook from like this, right? This is how I started. I'm not attached to how you start. Just start. Is you can go to Dollar General and get a notebook.
Yeah,
But what
yeah.
I've learned is that I just started doing gratitude just naturally because I've journaled for a very long time. My father wrote. I'm a ferocious reader, but what I learned is that a lot of my clients have to be prompted. Okay, so what I've come into, there's a prompt here to prompt you to be grateful for something, and then it asks you a leading question, right? And it takes about 2 or 3 minutes. It's not this is like Jumanji level 1 for gratitude, right?
I love
And
that
this is what
actually.
I was shown, and this is interesting. So I always was kind of curious, because I had the grateful box and I put a note a night in the box. But my client, Ollie from Georgia, really helped me. He's like, I get the notebook. I get it. I get it. And this is it. I can't write anything. And I was like, what? Walk me through this. So he and I had a lot of conversations in the last year. And he said, I need a prompt. So I was like, okay. So my team and we created this sheet. And I put some other things in there that I use to transform my life, which is 2 minutes with God, source, higher self, just coming to alignment. I put that in there. And then I left some room for daily reflection because it's the culmination of a lot of things I've done. And I put it in this. And Ollie now, when he gets his copy, will be prompted what to write. And so he will move into being able to fill maybe a page like this eventually. But in the beginning, people need to be prompted. They don't know they can't take a plain piece of notebook paper. So I was meeting them where they were.
Yeah.
I was giving them grace to say, okay, this worked for me. But my upbringing is different. My parents were readers. My dad was a writer. He journaled. I've been journaling since I was 14. And so the journal really guides you through it. And in the back, I have a creative team. Nora, she's amazing. She even added like some little exercises, like write a thank you note, do a gratitude bucket list, like fun things.
I love that in the letter to your future self.
Yeah,
That
right.
was like the last
So
page.
all the little things.
Awesome.
And it just, I wanted to make it easy. I want it to be, get a pen, get a journal, but however you want to start gratitude and starting being consistent with it. It's the consistency. It's like I told somebody yesterday. I said, it's like brushing your teeth. You don't say, oh my gosh, I was so busy today, I never got around to it. No.
Yeah.
So make time, attach it to a habit. Like, so if you're going to have, instead of scrolling on your little doom scroller, put it away. And instead of doing that at breakfast or whatever, take 3 minutes away from doom scrolling and write down gratitude because it's transformational. It really is transformational in the mind. We're rewiring how we actually look at life.
Well, I feel like I need to have a follow-up like thing live with you about social media now between fake book and doom scrolling. I feel like we have so much we can talk about with that.
No.
Okay, so let's talk about being unforgettable because that kind of goes along with gratitude. And you had this amazing social post recently, and it was 5 ways to become unforgettable to clients. And I just thought it was so I don't know, applicable to this part of our conversation. But you had 5 things. So 1 was handwritten notes, 2 was gratitude calls, 3 was just because gifts, 4 was customized holiday greetings, and 5 was just supporting their business. So of those 5 things, what are kind of maybe like 2 that you highly recommend that anyone could do, anytime?
Any business should be thanking their client at least 45 days after the sale. After they've transferred money to you, I don't care if they're an ongoing client, a thank you note needs to go in the mail or something. And it could just be a thank you note. It doesn't have to have anything of value to it. I teach this void of silence in my teaching. So 45 days after someone gives you money, there's sometimes, let's just say even insurance or coaching, you still might be interacting with them some, but it's not as much as when you're bringing them on as a customer. And what it does is, you're in 45 days, your name sometimes too is not recallable, right? Like I said this I had a garage door put in last March or April when we bought this house. And if you ask me today, hey, I need a garage door person, I don't know their name. I can't refer them.
Yeah.
So because I've never heard from them again. So what we're trying to do here is how are we making them feel for taking their hard-earned money and giving it to you?
Right.
And then secondly, how are we being easily referable and connected? And people are out, they'll get a client and then they're going to go chase two birds in the bush and they're going to ignore the little bird in their hand. It's unbelievable how much money is sitting in people's current relationship lists. Millions of dollars for some people, I've uncovered. And so then you can do, let's say you hear someone had a baby or that somebody passed away. We've stopped responding. So when my parents passed away in the last 5 years, how are we responding to life events for people that we care about? Clients, relationships, spheres of influence? Are we showing up? Because I do not believe, and I will be very blunt about this. I will put my I want to be a New Yorker. I'll put my I'm a wannabe Yankee because I married one, even though I'm a Southern girl. It is not acceptable if one of your closest clients or relatives passed away or your friend and you post on Facebook, sorry for your loss. In my book, that is an unacceptable Emily Post response. It's unacceptable. We have stopped showing up in people's lives, and it shows because we're just not showing up. And so in a gratitude call, it's not a sales call. Right? So if you did a thank you note in a gratitude call or text, because some people don't even have their voicemail set up. But even in my keynote, I make we stop. So 1:30 last Thursday, 200 people got their little dream stealers out, their little doom scrollers.
Oh no, I'm gonna add that to my list.
And I was like, I know y'all have them. Some of you might be looking at them. I hope not, but you might be. And so I said, get them out. I know they're close by. You got your eyeball on them. Let's get them out and let's text 3 people. I am grateful for you. Just 3 people. And I do this in my keynote because what happens is, let's say 200 people text 3 people. Let's say just 200 people text 1 person. That's 200 people getting a text. I am grateful for you. In one moment, it shifts the energy of the room. The responses are sometimes crying. Like one lady, I did this at a women's keynote, and she said, my husband asked me, are you dying? Because she's never sent him an I am grateful for you, right? Like not unexpectedly or whatever.
Right.
And so we're not taking the time to say, I really care about you as a human being. And I'm going to make sure that you understand how much I care about you, because there are people that get things from me in the mail and they have never even been a client of mine, never paid me anything. But I want them to know that I care about them beyond a shadow of a doubt.
I love
and
that.
we've just stopped doing it. We've stopped doing it. So that's really, and supporting people's businesses as far as, if you trust that person, and supporting their business and doing a Google review for your favorite restaurant, or, when do we do Google reviews? When we had a bad experience. We don't think about, oh my God, that restaurant was amazing. Let me stop on my car and do a Google review. We don't do that. We only do Google reviews when it was bad. So I want you to think about doing a Google review when you're grateful, not grumpy.
Yeah, 100%. And I feel like that also creates community. Like all those things you're talking about, you're creating your own little community or big community. Right. And for me, that's been so powerful. I feel like that has made it to where I've never had to pay for leads. I've never had to pay for like a lot of the stuff that I hear people complaining about spending their money on. I'm like, I don't think you really need to do that if you're creating community through all the things we're talking about today. Like,
right.
I don't know.
Well, here's what I've uncovered when I work with clients and we do, like, maybe, let's say we do a gratitude re-engagement strategy, right? So I encourage them, let's say I'm going to ask them, this is the hardest part, I need you to make a list of, let's just say 50 of your top relationships, relationships. Oh, okay, that means name, address, and we're going to send something of value to these 50 people in the mail. And we'll send it out, and they're like, nobody called. I'm like, well, why did you send it? Did you send it because you care about them? Or did you send it to get something?
Mm-hmm.
And like I tell my real estate agents that I coach, everybody you meet is not a listing.
No, but they might know someone that is. You
And
never know.
you don't know
Yeah.
who knows. I mean, it's the power of proximity. And so I
Yeah.
have somebody say, well, I want to meet somebody. And I'm like, okay, well, how can you add value to their life?
Right. Yes. Yes. Yes.
How can you add value before it's not about, don't be the person who we all know these people. Your phone rings and you're like, oh, what do they want?
Again.
They only call when they want something.
Oh yeah.
Never any other time. And so I decided I didn't want to be that person.
Yeah. No.
I didn't want to be, I wanted to add value where people are like, oh, and maybe actually when I sold my agency, I had 2,000 clients and I
Hmm.
called about 10 of them when I sold the place and I could. And 100% of them answered the phone. And I finally asked one of them, I said, why did you answer the phone? He's like, oh, because you never call just to chit chat. Every time you call, it's something valuable. I was
There
like,
you go.
oh,
Yeah.
oh, you're always thinking of me. And when you call me, it's
Yeah.
about me. And I'm like, oh, interesting. He's like, and I was like, well, I never thought about it that way. It was very intuitive. But we're not thinking of others. How can we add value? How
Yeah.
can we add value first? How can we be a go giver and not a go taker?
Well, you just like naturally segued into the next question, and we didn't even practice that. But
I
I
know.
want to
Thank
I want to acknowledge how smooth you are with that.
Oh,
You are. You naturally segue into
oh, so
that.
funny.
So we're gonna just talk about go giving now. When you use that term, go giving, what does that exactly mean?
Well, that stems from the book The Go Giver, written by
Okay.
Bob Berg and John David Mann.
Okay.
And I do events with Bob Berg. I followed him for a very long time. And then by intention, I mean, I didn't know I would be doing work with him, but I met him and then you know, I wanted to meet Bob. And so I decided to do some of Bob's events. That's how, if you want to meet someone at Bob's level, I'm going to give you a little tip. If you wait around for a Bob Berg to call you, let me know how that works for you.
I
You've
bet.
got to
You're great
go where
together.
they are. Right.
Yeah.
He's gonna call you the first of never.
Yeah.
Because what happens is you've got to get in the power of proximity of people.
Yeah.
Right. And people don't get this. So they're like, oh, I want to meet. I'm like, okay, well, when do they have an event? When can you go? Oh, I want to meet Joe Dispenza, or I want to meet blah, blah. And so what happens is they don't think about it. How are you, why would they, what are you bringing to the table, right? How
Right.
are you adding so much value
Right.
and being unique in a noisy world, which is also my quote. So a
Hmm.
go-giver is putting others first, always.
Yep.
Putting others first, adding way more value than you take in payment. And you might say, oh, is that a recipe for bankruptcy? No, because the second go giver law is the law of compensation.
Yeah.
And so that is where we are giving, so your worth is determined by your value. It's not law of compensation and then the law of value. No, 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 no. It's law of value and then law of compensation. And I've
Yep.
learned that let's say, even if I really did something of value and this is where people get hung up. And this is where when I coach people, I'm like, okay, we've got to rewire the brain to think differently. That's a reframe. And they'll say, oh, well, I did this for this person, but they didn't do anything for me. I'm like, okay, but
Yeah,
did
like
you
this
get it
backlash.
indirectly? Did you
Yeah.
help this person and get it indirectly somewhere else?
Hmm.
And you're not connecting the dots.
Right.
You're not connecting I added massive value to this person, and the power of the law of compensation provided for me over here on this pendulum.
Right.
See, it's always working. It's always working. The laws are always working.
Yeah.
People just don't know the laws. And so that's where your worth is determined. But you've got to have the law of compensation and serve more people. And in Go Giver world, we say upserve, not upsell.
I love that too. I really
Because
do.
we're serving others first. And when we have a servant's heart, rooted in gratitude, rooting in go giving, I've talked to a guy yesterday who came to our Sales Wise Live who never heard these concepts before. And he's like, oh my gosh, Kim, I'm just using some of your Grow with Gratitude just because I learned it. And I can see where this business is just blooming from me changing and reframing my engagement.
Yeah.
Because energetically, he's bringing something positive and influencing the law of influence, which is a Gulliver law, into the situation. He said, even when I wanted to get grumpy at one point, I could hear you say, it's grateful, not grumpy. And I could hear you say that. And he said, so I shifted the way I even engaged with that person and I changed the outcome. That's where we want to be, love and light, where we want to, when we come into a room, we shift the energy because of who we are and energetically.
I love that. So you already talked about the first 3 laws, but there's also the law of authenticity and the law of receptivity. I think I pronounced that
Well,
right.
so authenticity is you being in alignment with your true self. So I will tell you, I never loved insurance. It actually wasn't even logical for me to be in it because I was in technology. And then I was like, I had my insurance license from 1998, and then 9/11 hit and the whole world, like, whatever.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I wasn't in my authentic self. And I just did a post recently of a picture of me from 2012. And in that picture we had made, I was miserable. And when you're not in your authentic self and you're frustrated and you're miserable, you're in force. You're forcing your life. And we're supposed to be in flow. I taught this yesterday. For flow, not force. And your authentic self is offering yourself, you're offering yourself authentically. And then the receptivity part is it's giving and receiving. So a lot of people, we have to be open to receiving or we're going to block abundance, right? We have to be in receive. So women are the worst. I said this last week. Women are the worst. You'll say, oh, I love your, oh, I got this at Goodwill. Oh my God, this whole thing. Or, oh, your hair looks gorgeous. Oh yeah, no, we just fill in the blank, right? We have to be open to receiving. In fact, I do this with I've done this with my daughter, and I didn't realize what I was doing is, I've always made sure my daughter has an abundant mindset. She's 21. She'll be 22 on Saturday. And so my Nana Stella always would give me a $100 bill when I would go see her, always. And I never thought anything about it. I've always had $100 bills in my wallet, which is a mindset of not lack, but abundance.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I gave Samantha a $100 bill and she was like, oh, I'll take it. And I say, you always say yes. Just say yes. Thanks. So I was given one to a friend of hers one day and he was like, oh, no, I don't need it. I'm like, no, you have to be in receivership.
Yeah.
I said, you have to be in receivership. Giving is living and receiving is living. And he's like, oh, okay, I'll take it. But so we have to be in receptivity.
Yeah.
We have to open up because otherwise we're giving, and we're like blocking the receiving.
I love that.
And it's tough for people because they're saying, oh, I don't. But see, the law is always working. The law of receptivity. We have to say what we're grateful for people, and people have to be able to receive it.
I love that. And I think when you talked about like being authentic and finding things that align with you and all of that, like I feel like for me, once I've accepted those callings and I've, pursued my passions and been authentic to what feels like I should be doing with my life, I attract. I've noticed that, and it's crazy. Like you just start attracting all this stuff, and it's awesome. But that's another thing that I think if you're feeling stuck, like if someone's watching this or whatever, and they're like, I feel stuck, or I'm not attracting the people and the opportunities I want, and you might not have found what is aligning then right with you, because you should
Right.
kind of be glowing with that energy or whatever. And people want to be around people that are in love with what they're doing and in love with their life. So,
Well, and
yeah.
here's what I would tell them. I would tell them to here's what they can ask themselves. And this will really get you're not going to get the answer right away. Sometimes it might be a year.
Yep.
So, if money was off the table and you had $40 million in the bank, Because see, a lot of people attach to, oh, I would do that, but where am I going to get my
Oh
permission?
gosh, if I
Oh
had
my
a dog every time I heard that,
God.
I'd
Monkey
be
mind, monkey mind.
yeah.
So basically, I want you to ask yourself this question, and I want you to throw up on a piece of paper, just put it all down, just brainstorm on a piece of paper. At the
Yeah.
top right, I am happy for $40 million, and tomorrow I start the journey that I wish I could live. What does tomorrow look like? Because a lot of people are so stuck in the prosperity and how they're going to make the money,
Yeah.
and it's keeping them stuck in fear and worry, and fear and worry don't hang out with gratitude.
No.
And then I would tell you, if you're stuck in your business, show love and gratitude to every dime that comes into your business, every customer. Even if you have to write their names down every morning and say, I am super grateful for, write their name. I am super grateful for, write their name. When you show gratitude for what you have, more will come. When you're not showing gratitude for it, it will not multiply.
I love that. Well, we've kind of went through everything everything and more. This was just so many quotable quotes, so many amazing nuggets of wisdom here. Is there anything else we didn't talk about that you'd want to bring up before we kind of conclude here?
The only thing I would say is just start. We have a lot of shelf help in our closets or on bookshelves, and it's the activity of doing. And it's a little thing every day. It's like a client of mine said to me, I want to be able to give money. I said, okay, will you start with giving $10 away today? Now, so he was waiting to say he could give $50,000 away. But see, the way the laws work is if you could give $10 away to somebody or to something today, it starts the momentum of stepping into the life you want to live.
Yeah.
You cannot wait. If I'd have waited, I wouldn't be sitting where I am today. But it's every little thing that's done. It's not one big thing.
Yeah. That's amazing advice. So I'm glad you said it that
Just
way.
start. Just start.
Yeah. Just start. Well, thank you for joining me today. I am grateful for you, very grateful for you. How can everyone connect with you more outside of this show?
So they can go to kimangeli.com, and you can go to YouTube. Just connect with me on YouTube. This is where I'm going to be putting a lot of content. I hired a producer this year, Joseph, who's amazing, and that's where I'm going to be sharing a lot of content with the world, and just connect with me on YouTube.
Awesome. Well, I hope everyone watching can also join me on March 5th at 10 a.m. Eastern, where we will have our next episode of Engage with Emily. And we'll have special guest Christy Cool on, and we'll be talking about setting yourself up for success, creating an unstoppable day.
And she is amazing. Love her.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Bye bye.